just before you get into that story, every time we do a podcast, it's either from like renting out a business center to get like a hot desk office with good internet, or it's right now I'm over in a friend of mine in his bedroom while he works in the other room. He's very kind to let me come in and record. It's always different
Yeah, that's
places
very
because we're
kind,
traveling
especially
so much.
because you don't really notice for that way, I presume, since you're only in America,
No.
like a
Well,
few
you know what?
months.
I did meet him a few years ago when I first came over. He's a good guy, Austin. So shout out.
But
Thanks
look,
very much, Austin.
tell him thanks very much, and you should really stop sleeping in his bed as well. By that's bad form. Telling me
I
a
know.
4 hour podcast and going for
I
2 hour
was here
naps.
yesterday because we tried to record a podcast and it didn't work. We just had technical issues. It happens all the time. It's a fucking pain in the bollocks. And just before I left, my water bottle spilt on his bed and it looked like I pissed all over his bed. So not only did I just take up his room, but it looked like a big piss. I had to text him later saying, look, that wasn't piss or anything funny.
But did you not tell him
Because
before you left, like, or did you
he
just
was on a
leave and leave the
business
piss?
meeting. He was on a business meeting
You could have
in
just
the other
jumped on and
room.
just said, "Sorry to interrupt there. I didn't piss on your bed, all right? It's just water."
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
that would have gone down well. What were you saying about yesterday?
I was up in a heap when we got on the call because I was at the park with Isabel and she had a fall. She hit her head off a slide and I was like
Oh,
in full blown panic mode. But as I was, I've definitely calmed down now, and on reflection, I think I should have reacted a bit calmer. But it was
easier
hard. It
said
was the
than
kind
done,
of
huh?
biggest fall I've seen or have yet. So
You know, it's funny you say you should have reacted calmer because when I told the story, I can't even remember if I told it on or off the fucking podcast, but I was playing up in a tree. One time I fell off the tree and a big stick went up my leg and I jumped up and ran back to the caravan. And my dad was like, oh, it's okay. It's fine. We're going to get a plaster. We're going to be good. Just lay there. I'll get mum and we'll be fine. My ma comes in. She goes, fucking Jesus, the size of that. And she started going crazy. And like the difference, then I started panicking, going crazy. So Shane, I understand what you're saying because you don't want Isabel, God bless her, to panic, right? Or to see you get like this because it's going to impact maybe her thought process. I don't know.
yeah, but at the time, again, it was like the biggest fall I've seen her have. So I was thinking she hit her head off the slide. I didn't know if it was her face, her head, her eye. So I was just in the moment. I was panicked. And she was grand 5 minutes later. She wanted to go back on the slide, and I've given myself PTSD when I walk past slides. Now I'm going to be shaking and stuff. But
Yeah.
no, I actually have another funny story. When I was playing football a few years ago, the goalkeeper on my team broke his leg, like horrifically broke his leg.
Oh,
And I ran
how?
down when he was on the floor. Like a guy came in
Tackle.
to get, like a forward was chasing the ball, and whatever happened, like the guy went into his leg, snapped his leg. But I went back when he was on the floor just to see what was going on because I didn't know at the time his leg was broke, and he was laying on the ground and he was like, "Oh, my leg," and I was like, "You all right? What's happening?" He's like, "My leg, man." I looked down, and his leg was literally going sideways. So I was like,
Oh,
"Jesus Christ, our legs, fuck
Thing is,
Jesus!" And he was like, And we were both just shouting at each other. And the manager was like, to me, "Get away from him, you! Get away from him!" I was like, "Fucking hell!" Because his leg was
come
gone.
here. The power of the mind, though, huh? Because when my dad was like, "You need a plaster," I thought, well, okay, fine. It feels funny and it hurts, but maybe the plaster's good. The minute my man came in and went fucking berserk, I was like, bollocks, my leg is hanging off, and then I started to feel shit like all in the
Especially when you're a
mind.
kid, though. Especially when you're a kid, because you're kind of like, whatever the adult says or your parents says, like, you're kind of, okay, I believe it.
Yeah, I've got a
there's
quick
there's
story.
such a difference in like English or Irish football compared to like European football. Because I remember when we went to Holland on a football trip, and the first 2 matches we got in, the ref walked off in both of them because we
Why?
were just getting in fights. Because there's a massive difference between like the culture over here. If you put a good tackle in, the whole crowd goes mental. They're like, yeah,
Because the fucking culture over here, because the fucking culture is that you lads like to fucking cause trouble all the time. That's what the fucking culture is. Shane, what do you
Well,
reckon?
Shane's Irish as well. He just said that that someone got their leg torn off as well, and it's the same thing. It's like the culture is different over there. When you put a shit tackle in, everyone goes like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And
You're
so we got
right.
in a
You're
couple
right.
of fights.
You know what,
But
Ed? You're
that's,
right. Shane, hold on. He's right because the Irish do go across the world and start fights with everyone for no reason and fucking. They do that, don't they?
you can't be holding him responsible for his
I
government's
am.
decisions. Come here, Ed.
Oh, here we go.
Listen,
Conspiracy already. Right into the government said we're only fucking 2
No,
minutes
that's not
in.
conspiracy.
Straight
That's
in.
Oh, now you're on
Boris
Shane's side,
Johnson's
is it? Because I'm
injected in your
fucking
arm.
giving
yeah,
you
because
shit.
you're a cunt. That's why. You're a cunt.
Oh, see, look at him straight away. You're a cunt. You're a fucking cunt.
Lads, less of the bickering. The cultural difference you're talking about, Ed, from the Irish perspective, because obviously the Irish perspective is much better than the English one, is we're tougher. That we like, I suppose, football would be seen as tougher in like Ireland, UK, that kind of region, and then the Europeans would see themselves as more skillful, a bit more like, step overs and all that. But that
Finesse.
kind of goes, I think, into the into the culture as a whole as well. Just shut up and get
It
on with
does.
it. And fucking go hard or go home.
Go hard or go home. I was looking. We're looking to rent a place here. Fuck me, man. What is going on with the housing prices and rentals? It's insane. Like, A, there's a shortage of houses everywhere to rent. B, the price is astronomical. It's fucking crazy. I was reading that it's due to a number of factors, but a large one being COVID. The fact that everyone was locked up for so long, people need their own space, and people are now more than ever renting and trying to get, like, they don't want to share with people. Because can you imagine when you're sharing with people during lockdown, everyone killed each other.
Oh,
It's a fucking nightmare.
especially if you're staying with strangers, if you're in like a four room house
Jesus.
share, and there's 4 people you don't really know that well. But
What's it like in Ireland?
in America,
just remind me. I have a story about a place that we visited just after that. But what's it like in Ireland?
well, in America, I think the inflation is also causing a large part of probably the price increase, and definitely people wanting to live on their own or change and move. And also during the pandemic, construction was stopped in a lot of places,
Yeah,
so they weren't building houses as well. But in Ireland, it's double fucked because there was already a housing crisis before the pandemic. There wasn't enough houses for the amount of people that were looking for them. So it drove up the price, and now the pandemic and inflation and all these things have caused the price to go absolutely crazy. Very, very,
yeah.
very big. Very. I think it was something like, was it a 15% increase in the last 12 months in house prices? Most places
It's
in Ireland, which
fucking
is
mad.
fucking ridiculous.
I see in America, the average house price in America now is $500,000. It's fucking ridiculous. And you know what? I was potentially thinking, not now, but obviously if the business, fucking God willing, alhamdulillah. Can I get cancelled?
You're from Iraq, boy. Your dad would be fucking ashamed, I'd say. Alhamdulillah.
All right, fucking. Well, you look like one with that beard.
Mark de Klerk. I know what to say to him.
Mark de Klerk.
Boy,
Listen,
see that bag there?
You should shave off.
See
We
that
both
bag?
should shave off our mustache so we look like one of the. What bag?
The bag behind me there, lad.
See that bag?
See
Yeah,
that
what
bag
about
there?
Yeah,
I'm
it's
after
right
buying
in
that
front
now
of us,
by
mate.
20 grand. I'm living in that now.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah,
I open up the
But
zip on top, jump into it.
half $500,000 over here, and I was thinking, if the business went well and everything else, and I had enough for a deposit, I would try to get a place. But I'm thinking now with everything, a lot of economists are saying that there's a potential global recession on the cards. It looks inevitable, and I think it's probably best to wait a little bit longer with these houses because we're at a peak right now, right? Everything is peaked, so I don't think it's the best time to buy. But who knows? But anyway, I was driving to view a house yesterday. On the way to drive to view a house, I saw a for rent sign outside a house, and me and Valentin thought, fuck it, let's go knock in and see the crack. Knocked on the door, no one answered. Rang the doorbell, no one answered. There's 2 cars outside and the windows were down, so we knew there was someone in there and I could hear something. Rang the doorbell again, nothing. We couldn't really hear the doorbell, so I said, fuck it, let's knock on the door. Knock a door, run, boys. Knocked on the door, and this fella opened the door with his boxers, only boxers. I'd say he was about 55, skinny
That's
fella,
always
small.
a good sign, man.
Always a great sign.
Underpants during the day.
Oh yeah,
Great sign.
during the day it was 5 p.m. Maybe 5 p.m. So he had ginger sides, completely bald on top, and those like needle marks, like he just had a hair transplant. So he just had a hair transplant. Ginger handlebar mustache, and he's like, "Come on in," tattoo on his hand. I can't discriminate. I've got one too, but I'm just giving you a picture. So we go
Can I
in. The
ask
house
a question?
smelled
No,
like,
sorry, no. To stop
Go
you there.
ahead.
So you give him this description of this fella.
Yeah.
Please do not tell me that you took his invitation and went into his house.
Of course we did. Listen,
Oh
of course
my
we
God.
did. You have to, right? So anyway, we go into his house. Smells like piss, big time. Smells like piss, and he has the biggest TV I've ever seen in my life. Like the whole wall with one widescreen TV, all old furniture. One of the walls had palm tree wallpaper on it. It just looked like it looked like a room out of a movie where something real fucking dodgy, weird happens. Anyway, we're sitting there talking, and he's like, "Yeah, well, I have a guy living in that room, so I'm gonna have to figure that out." And I'm like, "Okay, that's weird." And then he's like, "I'm moving to Cuba." So I was like, "Okay, grand." And then I was looking at the walls in one of the rooms, and there's a picture of him lying on a bed, jacked with like fuck tons of cash, like looks like $1 million. And I'm like, "What's the story behind that photo?" And then he starts to proceed to take out all these pictures, and he's got pictures of him with hundreds of kilos of cocaine in Colombia, and he shows me an arrest report where he was caught with $1 million.
I just got an image in my head of you and this fella sitting on his couch with him in his underpants with his arm around you, and you're just flicking through an album, and he's like,
I know.
"Yeah."
So bizarre. And then he's like, he's like, yeah, I used to launder money, 88 million in 3 years. And I'm like, fuck. So I'm
What
looking at
the
Valentine
fuck?
being like, wait, this is fucking weird. Now, the location's perfect for the house, but he's like, yeah, I need to figure out what I'm going to do. Will I stay in the other room? Will I leave? And I'm like, cool, I don't know, but I'm
You're
getting
not
the fuck out
staying
of
there.
here. Before I left, he's like, if you take the house or not, come over for a beer. I'm like, all right.
What?
Yeah.
Nabs, I cannot believe that you nearly got fucking buggered by a fellow you're trying to
I
rent the
know.
house off. If you're
I
not
know.
careful, you'll be living in the spare room, I'd say. I'd say,
I
did you actually
know.
see the fellow living in the spare room, or was he actually
No.
like in there
No, the door
forcefully,
was
or what? Was he
locked.
locked in there?
No, it was weird. It was like, in a hotel room, when you're in a hotel room and there's a double one. So when you can open the door and there's a gap of like this much and there's another
Yeah,
door.
and there's another door. Yeah.
That's exactly what it was like in his house. It's just, and American gaffs are so weird. They're completely different. I like the fact that they're all different because I don't like uniformed houses. That makes me feel of like we're living in a dystopian fucking weird fucking neighborhood.
Mm-mm.
No offense to anyone that lives in one, but you know what I mean. Where every single house is the exact
But
same.
new houses are kind of like that anyway. In general, newer houses are
They,
very.
yeah, true, they are. But over here, they're very, very different. Like I don't know how they fucking built the place, but you'll have one tiny pink house, and then you'll have a fucking 4-story white house, and then you'll have a fucking whatever. Just weird gaff. But that was that anyway. So continuing to look and seeing what's happening. I want to get into something quickly because I was reading it in the car while I was waiting for you to set up in the fucking gym. But is it Lia Thomas? What's her name?
Lia Thomas, the swimmer.
Lia Thomas, the swimmer. So a bit of controversy over that. I've got some thoughts. I'm sure you do too. So she won what did she win? Do you know?
The
I want to make sure I get
nationals,
it
like the
right.
American championships in her.
NCAA
Yeah, female
swimming or
category
something. Yeah.
Look, my view on this is like anybody can, if someone wants to be identified as anything, whatever, you name it. If someone wants to be identified as that fucking bottle, go for it. I'll respect it and I'll do it because I want to make you happy. And I feel like you have the right to do that and I have no discrimination at all. However, when you have a penis that's thick and big, I don't think you should be competing against a biological woman because it's just so unfair on every level. And I read an article, I'm going to get cancelled for saying that. I read an article, Caitlyn Jenner, who's, very famous in terms of like trans community and everything else. And obviously an
Most
amazing
famous
Olympian.
transsexual in history, I'd say.
Yeah, and a phenomenal Olympian. Like, I don't know if you've seen her story on Netflix, but just incredible story of just the determination and everything that she has, or he had then, I don't know. But Caitlyn even. Look, I'm being, anyway.
Nabs, I think you're doing an excellent job.
I
Thank you,
think I
Jordan.
was just trying to leave
Cancelled,
Nabs. I was trying to leave Nabs talk himself into fucking trouble there. That's what I was saying. I was
I
going to
didn't,
leave
though.
him keep talking. He,
Well,
her,
I'm going to
him,
finish the
she,
sentence and I'm going to open
I'll
it
say
up to you
whatever
guys.
proverb they want to say. Yeah.
Well, Caitlyn Jenner
Go
said
on
that
now.
was totally wrong. It was totally wrong. It shouldn't have happened. And it's like, and I feel like there has to be a line drawn somewhere. There has to be like, if all of a sudden I'm a 55-year-old fella, 8'8" a bit big, 6 foot, and I decide that I want to be now identified as a woman. Can I go into the female toilets and take a piss with little girls? Like, is that acceptable? Where's the line drawn here? Shane, what's your thoughts there, buddy?
Yeah. I suppose the sporting context is an easy one to get people upset because being fair or having a fair playing field is kind of a value in most sports. So like the biological difference between a man and a woman are so vast when it comes to certain physical attributes, not all of them, but certain ones, that in some sports the gap would be just massive, and it's not fair. Like, it's not. There has been other competitors in that same race come out and say that as well, that they feel they were robbed of a position or they feel they were robbed of the podium. And as much as Lia Thomas's feelings matter, you could say, in terms of like she deserves to be called a woman, these girls
Yeah.
who've trained their whole lives to compete and try and be the best that they can, they also deserve that chance. Like, and you can't argue against. But like, we've been all asked there for the last 2 years to fucking believe the science, listen to the science. Like, and then when it comes to this, you just don't have to listen to the science or believe the science.
Right.
It's scandalous.
And
And,
also,
then, as you said, where does it lead to? Like, does that mean so that men can go into female change rooms, female toilets? If a fella identifies as a 3-year-old girl, can he go into a play school? Like where do you fucking draw the line?
right, and I think it's down to the fact that like everyone's so eager to please and not offend. Eager to please and not offend.
But why is it? But why is it such a? I don't understand how it's controversial to say that. Like, it should be fair. Sports should be fair. And how do you make sports fair? I mean, you have to have weight categories in certain sports. You have to have level categories. Like a black belt jiu-jitsu practitioner can't go into a white belt category for obvious reasons. So why
Oh,
should a
what if I
man be able to
identify
compete?
myself as a black belt? That's pretty good.
Exactly, though. That's
Save
it.
me a lot of
Like
years of hassle.
because you can't identify yourself as a black belt because it's not based on reality, or it's not based on fucking. I'm going to get myself in trouble if I keep talking anyway.
No, I don't think you will. Listen, we're not having again. The fuck, like, listen to the first thing.
Nah,
we're
do
saying.
you know what?
Anyone
look,
can be
it's-
identified. I respect everyone's opinion. Listen, there's a lot of people
Yeah,
out
in
there that
terms
don't
of
even
look, in
respect
terms of what you want to be
people's fucking rights
called.
to do that.
Yeah, exactly. In terms of
Or
what,
identified as.
what you want to be called or described as or whatever, that's a different conversation to like the behaviours you're allowed to partake in. Definitely.
Yeah. Anyway, it's an
Mm.
interesting one, but
Like
again, I
imagine
think
now
it stems.
if a fella came into the gym here right during the sparring session and said, "Okay, I identify as a woman, so I want to spar in the women's section of the class." Now we do cross train anyway, but like if a guy said, "Oh, I want to compete in the women's category," like what am I going to feel like then if he goes in and breaks some girl's nose? Like, and
But you've already called them a fella, so they must have not transitioned at that point.
oh well, like that's just my
Well, this one's-
fucking.
That's.
But this is where it gets, because depending on whether you've transitioned or not, then you consider yourself
No,
a
but
woman. So
he
then-
doesn't mean it. Yeah, but he's not. Him saying fella, it's not. Basically, the point is, if
saying
someone
a trans
said
person,
identified,
basically,
saying a trans person. Fucking Ed, whose podcast side are you on, mate? You on our side?
Well, I'm just saying, you need to get this thing straight because it's a very techie debate. You know, you need to have everything in order, because if you're
Yeah,
saying,
but what I don't even know what categorizes transitioned. Like, because what if someone's wearing a dress, has long hair, and says that they're a woman?
sort of,
Is that a
yeah.
transition?
But no,
That's
it is
also
because like that.
part of
But
the
that is
debate.
what it is. It's whether or not you can identify as it. There's
Did you
no,
ever hear the story of the beautiful boxer?
no. But go ahead.
There's
I
a
love
movie
it.
made about
Mindset
it. So it's a
coach.
Thai. Sorry.
I just go on, carry on. I was going to say mindset coach because we had what was it, the frog and the fucking rabbit or whatever it was last time.
No, because he
Yeah.
did because that podcast was deleted.
Yeah, I can give that later on.
It
though,
was,
as well.
I want to hear it again. I liked it.
So the
Shane, are
beautiful
you
boxer is
searching?
a
Whoa,
story.
so Shane, are you searching on Google? Because you know what happens when you start searching on Google? It fucks up your
No,
connection.
No, it doesn't, does it?
It does. Ed,
I just wanted
you're
to
the
make
producer.
sure. All right, I just
Just-
wanted to make
yeah.
sure I was getting the person's name right. So there was a Thai boxer called Nong Toom, and he was with the best, like Lumpini champion, one of the best of his generation, and he transitioned to become a woman. So in Thailand at the time, obviously, it was like, you know, women couldn't be allowed in the main stadiums, in the rings or anything like that. So he wasn't allowed to compete anymore on the circuit. But he started coming back fighting Westerners, like no Thais would fight him. So none of the fighters in the Bangkok circuit would fight him. But he was fighting Westerners. He was fighting these very, very well-known like Dutch kickboxers, French kickboxers, Thai boxers, UK, and he was beating the shit. She was beating the shit out of him. And when you watch the later fight, it's so funny because she's tall, slender, has long hair, wearing a bra, like
I do
pink
remember
shorts,
this. Yeah,
and just absolutely kicking the shit because her skill level was through the roof. Like, but
yeah.
should that person have been allowed to go into the female Thai boxing category, like a champion already in the male category, in the highest level in the world, could she now have gone and started fighting women in Thai boxing?
Yeah, she's a biological woman, right?
Yeah, that's the question.
Yeah. So then, of course. So that's a level of that's a skill level. It's determination. It's how hard she put work into it. Okay. Yeah, there's advantages all the time. I'm
So
never
you're
going to
saying
be a
that he should have
basketball.
been allowed. He post transition should have been allowed. Yeah, so she should.
Sorry,
have been
you know
allowed
what? I
to compete with
wasn't.
women.
Okay, sorry, I wasn't listening to your story right there. I zoned off into Nabil's mind, and I thought you were just talking about. I thought you were just talking about a strong woman that was kicking fuck out of fellas.
No, this is
No?
a fella who was a champion fighter and transitioned to a woman. You missed the whole story, you cunt.
Sorry,
He's talking for 5 minutes.
I know. I went off there. Sorry. So okay, basically, it was a biological woman.
Go fuck yourself.
transitioned-
Not explaining it again. Everyone else was listening. You can
No,
take
it
part
was
in the discussion.
it was a biological man who transitioned to a woman, and then she started, but she still kept fighting fellas.
She kept fighting fellas and beating them as well. But
No,
again,
I
like
don't
you
think
have
she should
20
be- I
years
don't
of
think she-
training as a man, having
Yeah, no,
attributed
no.
all that.
Sorry,
yeah.
apologies, Shane. Apologies, Shane.
No, go fuck
It was
yourself.
just your beautiful background in the gym. Just it's put me off. But
Yeah.
she shouldn't be. No, she shouldn't be.
So this conversation to me is like, I don't know why it is so controversial that people like Lia Thomas is upset that people are calling her out or calling him out on the fact that, you know, he shouldn't be on the podium. And people who like, there's also a lot of women who have trained their whole lives who are getting very upset. So whose feelings should matter more? Like,
It's
and
not.
also, I
Yeah,
have a
but
daughter
it's,
now. Like, I don't want her to be going in, if she takes part in martial arts. I don't want to be in a world where she's fighting a biological man. Like, she's going to be an
But this-
unbelievable athlete, whatever she does. But there's
Of
differences.
course
Like
she
just
is. Yeah, but it's not that if you're getting offended that what are you getting offended by? It's your right to be identified as whatever you want, and that should be respected across the board. Otherwise, you're a fucking asshole. Just respect it. That's it. It's someone else's happiness. It's not going to intrude on you. But then there has to be a line drawn in the sand. Otherwise, I can identify as the president of fucking United States and a black belt in jiu-jitsu and fucking the head of fucking Tesla. And that's what I want to be. And you need to respect that. And where is the line? The line will just always get blurred. At the end of the day, if you're a biological woman, it's unfair. It's unfair. And that's it. It's just simply unfair. And
and
it's
what do you
fucking
think about?
dangerous.
Can I ask you
It's
now? So do you
dangerous.
think that if you were, let's say, working in an office, right, and there was 10
Yeah.
people in the office and 5 of them identified as male, and the other 5 identified as a different category of things, so female, all
Yeah.
these different things that people can be. Do you think then that you should be responsible for using the correct pronoun for every person at every time at every point of conversation?
It's not that I should be responsible. I would try to do it if it made someone feel better. I would try
About
to
being
do it.
reasonable.
But
If
it's
someone
exactly
tells you their pronoun and you misuse it on purpose, then you're being a cunt. But if you make a mistake or something, it's like, okay, well, with this,
it's the whole Jordan Peterson debate. It's the whole Jordan Peterson debate. Why he became so popular? Because well, not popular, but part of it, because he refused to accept it as law. He said that I have no problem saying calling someone by whatever they want to be identified by, but he had a problem if it was put into law, into English language, that you had to do it. So for me, it's not, I would respect people and I would try to do it. It's fucking confusing. I can barely remember fucking where I put my toothbrush, but I would try to do it. But I don't think you should have to do it. That's my thing.
Do you know it's such a different? It's such a deep
Should you tip?
conversation.
Should you have to tip someone in a waiter? Should you have to be polite to a waitress? Should you have to be? Where the fuck does the everything? You could say that about everything. It's a good common. If you're a good person, you're polite to people. You're polite to people that you interact with.
But this goes straight away into an emotional, like tipping a waitress or waiter. That's like not a major thing, but this is someone's identity.
Well, hold on. It might be a major thing to them.
Yeah, but like
it's their livelihood.
But what I mean is
identity,
people get upset a lot quicker. People get upset a lot.
They
quicker.
do. Listen, I understand your point. I'm just saying that again, when there's no lines, it can just become bizarro land. It can just become absolutely fucking like I identify as his microphone. That's what I truly feel like.
It's the same thing as like I can try and empathize or try and put yourself in the shoes of maybe experiencing something that might be like that at a point. And whenever I've been, let's say in America or something, or in somewhere in Europe, and someone says, "Oh, you're from the UK, yeah?" And it's like, I start going into
Swift
like 700-year history.
Drop the nut on
English.
them quick.
You go fucking start singing rebel songs straight away. Come out, you black and tans, come out and fight me like a man. But no, like so you do get like obviously your identity is important, yeah. But Jesus,
it
like
is.
It's a confusing time. I listened to a podcast before about in ancient Greek where
Shane, before you get into that story, go on, actually tell the story because I know I'm going to forget what I'm going to say, but go on.
Forget it anyway. So the argument you weren't listening to, you probably won't listen again. But the argument in this podcast was that the idea that things are getting better because we have more categorization of sexuality and gender and all these things. Things are getting better because we're more accepting. That idea can be challenged by the opposite, where you don't have sexualized categories or you don't have gender categories. Obviously, when it comes to things like sport, that gets tricky, and that's where you have to start. But it's more about the cult, like, you know, instead of saying like, "Oh, I am straight" or "I am bi" or "I am lesbian," it's just like be what you are. Like you don't need to identify as it. Just be what you are. When it comes to the same with like your gender, on like if you want to take part in a sport, that's when there's a contract needs to be drawn up, and that contract needs to involve fairness. Or if you're going to be going to a place where people are vulnerable, getting changed, getting their clothes off, whatever it might be, that's again where contracts need to be drawn up. But we're using these fucking conversations now, we're in everything, you know, how you want someone to fucking address you in a 2-second conversation. I mean, Jesus, like it's just...
Yeah, I know. And again, just to piggyback off of that, it's a good point. And I'm not by any means saying like it must be excruciatingly hard and for somebody who is born a certain gender and then they feel the opposite way. It must be beyond tough. Like I couldn't even imagine what that feels like. Just daily life interactions with everything, like your family, your friends, must be unbelievably tough. And it's
Do you know what
by
we
no
should
means.
do? we should get
Well,
someone who's
could have
really
crossed me
like.
during. Could have crossed me during that, but
Listen,
go ahead.
I'm after getting rid of all respect for the conversation today since you stopped listening to a 5-minute story and then you went
Yeah,
off on a
exactly.
point that had nothing to do with the
5-minute
story I told, and you were like,
because it's a 5
"Oh,
minute story, mate. It's a podcast. It needs to
listen,
be
Ed,
quick fire.
Ed, did you enjoy
Tell
it?
me
Did you
fucking
enjoy
life
the
stories
story?
of Thailand.
The beautiful, yeah, I enjoyed it.
Thanks, Ed. I'm sure the listeners did as
Go-
well, Nabs.
All right, but anyway, just to put out my statement so I don't get cancelled, is I'm basically saying that I feel like that it must be really hard, and I'm not saying in any way, shape, or form that I wouldn't respect someone's identity, and it's not a hard thing. But however, in sports, especially combat sports, where it's fucking dangerous, there has to be some sort of fairness, like you said, and that's all I'm saying. So
I think
let's
what would
move
be
on.
good is if we invited someone who is in favour of Lia Thomas being allowed to compete in a female category in sport, or trans people being able to compete in the sex that they identify as. If they would come on an Instagram live and have a little debate with us, I'd happily take our side and try and do some research and get my facts together. So if anyone listening knows someone who's educated on the matter, is pro women being involved or men being involved in cross gender sport, then I'll challenge it to a debate live on Instagram.
Sound a bit aggressive, Ed, did it? No?
I know.
say
Shane's
it
getting more
nicer.
and more right
Hi
wing by the day,
everyone,
I'll be honest.
I'm willing
Mate,
to go
he's
onto
getting-
Instagram
Shane is getting
and do a debate with someone who's more in
Fucking
favour
hell.
of trans people being allowed to
Shane.
compete in the sport that they identify as. Is that better?
right wing O'Neill. Yeah, that's lovely. Shane's like, I want to debate.
Fucking
Get on. I want to
Nabil
debate
Trump.
someone.
He was fucking rubbing shoulders with the Trumps last week. He's calling me fucking right wing. The man was in there. Oh, I love your policies, Donald. I love them. Build a wall, Donald. Yeah. I'm from Iraq. You should never leave us in here.
Oh. I was like, come here. I agree with you with the Iraqis. Fuck them, fellas.
I know, yeah. Now I'm burning the Iraqi flag, waving the American. Yeah. Oh, stop.
Listen, moving on real quickly. Now, I want to make this quick because it's not an MMA show, and we are going to do an MMA show. And I'm very aware that I get messages all the time from people who listen to this that I know aren't interested in MMA, so I don't want this to go on too long. However, the backstory, because everyone can understand this, you don't need to be involved in MMA. Colby Covington and Jorge Masvidal had a fight in the UFC. Now, these two guys were very, very close friends for a long, long time. Then they had a big feud between the two of them. Won't get into what the feud was, but it was very, very personal. And Colby, especially, who's known for being, a trash talker, really went deep with a lot of the comments that he said, talking about his kids, talking about his ex-wife, talking about things that realistically they shouldn't be talked about. And just took every level. And with him, I mean, I've met him before. He's a very nice guy, and I don't think he's a bad person, but I do think he has a different kind of, he's a bit skewed on what he thinks all is fair in love and war, and it doesn't matter. It's just part of the game. I don't think that is that way, and there's consequences to certain things. However, they did fight for 25 minutes. Colby dominated the fight, and Jorge Masvidal obviously was fucking pissed off about the fact that he got wrestle fucked. But listen, he got beat fair and square across the board. Yeah, he got beat. Even stand up wise, he was getting beat stand up wise. Anyway, 2 nights ago, it came out that Colby Covington, the guy who won, the guy who was doing all the trash talk, was jumped in Miami by Jorge Masvidal. Supposedly lost a tooth. There's video that's circulating out there showing Masvidal running up and hitting him. And I have mixed feelings about it, but Shane, I wanted to get your thoughts on it. What do you think about it?
So it's coming from two different worlds, really, because Colby Covington is always not in public, but you kind of heard him after the Usman fight, kind of saying like, "Oh, I made us boatloads of money" or whatever. Like he's trying to say that he's just being, it's entertainment. Whatever he says in the public domain is entertainment. But obviously, this runs deep. They were friends. They had so much involvement in each other's families, and Colby brought that to the table when they were having their disputes. He was talking about Jorge's family. So Colby sees it as, this is all business, and once we make loads of money, you can say what you want and it's all grand, we'll fucking sort it out in the cage. Jorge is from the perspective of the streets, which is that once you cross a certain line, even if I don't get you in the cage, if I see you, I'm going to get you. And I don't agree with the fact that he cheap shot at him, like in the sense I never would agree with someone blindsiding someone with a punch. You can understand I suppose you have to try and understand from Horace's perspective, like again talking about emotions and certain things that will go deep, like, and will get you very, very fucking angry. Talking about your family is one of those things, like bringing family to the table and talking about your family in a disrespectful way. So Jorge sees Colby Covington as someone who doesn't deserve the respect that would be just having something in the ring and keeping it as that. Whatever happens, shake hands, leave it as gentlemen. Jorge feels that Colby's such a piece of shit that he deserved to get sidelined with a punch. Again, I'm not saying I personally don't agree with sidelining people because it's just a fucking, it's the opposite to what you're taught about with martial arts. You step
Right.
into the ring, you sort it out, you train hard to be better than the person that you have. But that's the problem with the UFC, as I've said before. I feel that they highlight and they promote values and behavior that shouldn't be identified with martial arts, whether it's entertainment or not, because you can go to a certain degree of like, having a bit of banter, taking the piss, but bringing family, bringing religion, bringing, fucking attacking people outside of the cage, like McGregor done, like all that was promoted to the point where now, how can you say Jorge is wrong there? Conor McGregor threw a fucking dolly through a bus.
It's a tough one because it's fucking entertaining and it's what gets people watching, and I find it extremely entertaining. But it's,
I
again, I
find it
suppose
entertaining.
UFC
I
should be,
find
they maybe should just acknowledge the fact that listen, if the UFC took them aside and said, boys, you have to stop this, you can't be saying this at a press conference, so there's going to be consequences, then they wouldn't do it. So they probably could have more responsibility on that side. But at the same time, it's a business. This shit does go on, especially in combat sports. It's always been like this since time began. You're about to fight someone. It's just I understand completely that Jorge did it. It's not a surprise. I don't particularly agree with it, but it's not a surprise. And I think if in normal life, if someone was talking about your kids and your family in such a way like that, there
you'd
is
hit him,
consequences.
exactly.
Like, you would hit them.
That's what I mean.
So
Like if I was in front of someone and they were talking disrespectfully about Isabel or Rachel, I'd probably hit them without even giving them a chance to think. Like if someone got to that stage of being very personal and talking really badly about people that you love and care about, but the UFC have a responsibility, and I know it's entertainment, and I fucking find it very entertaining too. I mean, you wake up, you see that news, you're like, oh fuck, where's the video? What happened? And it's going to draw you more to, if they ever do fight again, to be more eyes on the fight if they fight in the UFC. But the influence that these people can have in a positive sense, like being a fighter that's like world fucking famous, you can inspire kids and how they behave, how they act, what kind of values they pursue. And when you're being that type of character, what you're promoting in the young people is to be disrespectful, to talk shit to people, and then they don't understand, because when you're young, you don't see the fact that these fellas are athletes who train their fucking balls off and get to a place where they're elite. They understand fucking how their body works, their nutrition, their mindset. These kids are just looking at the end product, which is a load of fucking
Also,
tripe.
there was a massive hypocrisy in the reaction of the fans, because I don't know if you remember, there was a post fight press conference after Jorge knocked out Ben Askren, and
yeah,
he was saying something like, "If I see him at Whole Foods, I'm going to fight him again," or whatever. And everyone in the comments was saying, "Oh, he's like the last real one," or "He's like the realist." People kept saying he's real for he's like a real person. He's not, doesn't do it for the camera. But then when he goes and does it, everyone in the comments is saying, "Oh, he's a scumbag." He got all of this sort of thing. So it's like, when you go and do it, I don't agree with what he did, but
But that's the internet
I
for you as
mean,
well, by people will
it's true.
support the idea of something,
yeah,
and then when it happens, they're like, oh.
it
So
is. But
that's
it's
just the
also
internet.
it's also people saying like, oh, that shouldn't be done. You shouldn't talk about people's kids. But then at the same time, they lap it up. Everyone wants to. Why do their press conferences get way more views than everyone else? Because people want to see it. If they didn't want to see it and they don't support it, they wouldn't watch it. So it
But it's
is
also
the
like, it's
hypocrisy
almost
there.
like people are expected to be fake. Like, he said
Is
exactly
Shane
what he was
on
going
mute?
to do.
He is on mute. I think somebody's in the gym.
No, there's a Harley Davidson fucking shop
I don't know.
downstairs, and they're after test riding the Harley Davidson. So it's just, can you hear that?
No.
I can hear it now. I think you're good.
Yeah, I think that
Oh,
the
that's grand.
mics that
So
we have are quite good in terms of not picking up stuff. Now I can't hear anything.
cool.
Anyway, it is what it is.
I
We'll see
wanted
what
to bring up
happens with it.
something moving away from MMA. It's a good conversation as well. And I'll
Yeah.
always stand by the fact that entertainment is great, but when you have that much influence on culture and stuff, the company should promote a better value structure, a better kind of fucking behavior. But the Hunter Biden laptop has come back more into kind of the mainstream conversation in the last few days and last week,
Here we go,
and
Ed.
it's fucking, listen, this is a conspiracy theory that, as you know, I'm well and truly open to conspiracies. But I remember when I first heard about this, when I first heard about this, when I first heard about this like a year ago, I was trying to research it and like just in the spare time look on Google Hunter Biden laptop. There was fuck all. You couldn't find anything. You probably have to go to these like streams that conspiracy theorists fucking people use, or non-mainstream. I don't even want to use that terminology. I want to retract that. You're getting rid of that. I hate the term conspiracy theory. Non-mainstream news outlets would probably talk about it, but you won't find that in Google. It won't be in a search thing. So now what's coming out is that the New York Post first ran the story in 2020, and they had received the images and all the documents from the laptop from Mayor, what's his name, Giuliani, that fella who was like
Yeah, Rudy Giuliani.
Rudy Giuliani. They received it from him because he'd received it from whatever source he received it from, and they published the story, and they're quite a mainstream news outlet. But it was
Huge.
straight away it was attacked like as Russian espionage and Russian influence, and Trump was again trying to get Russia to move the direction in his favor of the election.
What was on the
And
laptop?
so there was a few things. So the main things that were on the laptop were images and videos of Hunter Biden taking crack cocaine with women in the background. There was, I haven't seen all the images, but there's also rumors of some of the women looking very young, and loads of stuff like that. And then there was email documents. So there was emails. The biggest thing now that's the most interesting is with the whole Ukraine situation.
Ukraine thing,
is that
yeah. That's fucking crazy.
there was emails between Hunter Biden and there was this really big private energy company based in Ukraine. I think something like 60% of the energy produced in Ukraine was owned by the government, and then this company owned the majority share of the rest of the market. And Hunter Biden was asked in an email to use his political influence to try and stop this investigation that was going on by the Ukrainian government into this company, because the guy in the company, the head of this, like the CEO of the company, was saying, "Oh, the government are trying to destabilize us so they can buy us out. They're trying to get rid of us from the marketplace, and they're basically doing it. They're doing all like nasty things to us." And that he asked Hunter Biden to use his political influence in order to stop this investigation from happening. And there was pressure put on a certain person, again via email. There was an agreement that pressure would be put on a certain politician within the Ukrainian government by Joe Biden to stop this investigation from happening. Now, that is a theory that is no longer really conspiracy, because a lot more people are talking about it. There's a lot more people that have the evidence, which is the email chains. And I think a lot of them have been authentified. What's that, John? You can see if it's actually a genuine fucking document, or it's something that's forged.
Yeah, right. I can't think of the word, but I know what you mean. Like, fuck me.
Yeah, I can't fucking think of it either.
Jeez.
But you know what I mean?
What is
They're
it when
basically
you
saying that it's real. Like,
verification?
they're all verified. They're all verified as real
Something like
documents
that,
and
yeah.
real images and real stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how this is taken up in the mainstream, or if it's taken up much at all. Like the last time, again, because the election was in the process of happening, and the left side were so opposed to Donald Trump, and that includes the media, because obviously the vast majority of media outlets and tech firms are kind of left leaning. They were so opposed to Donald Trump that they were willing to, turn the blind eye to some really fucking shady behavior just to try and get Biden in to get Trump out. And that's something that it's crazy to think. Like I always say the analogy to, like, in the 90s in football, Manchester United kept winning the Premier League, and it got to a stage where all the other team supporters were like anyone but United, to the point where a Chelsea fan would be celebrating when Arsenal won the Premier League or whatever. And people are willing to like look past their values and look past the stuff they believe in just because they're so against what's in power or what the system is at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, that's on both sides. Like, and Trump, for whatever you think of him, he did spur that a lot. Like, he wasn't inclusive or supportive or anything. It was
No.
very much like, haha, you know what I mean? If someone fucked up.
Yeah.
I mean, look, there's a few things with that. One, like, concealing evidence or concealing stories in political campaigns has been fucking there since time began, and it happens on both sides. So it's nothing really that surprising. What's more just kind of fucked up about it, and I know, what's his name? Russell Brand talks about it a lot, and he's been under fire now for being called a conspiracy theorist. But it's the fact that big tech and these companies are so involved, and these big decision makers are so involved in all of this, which is why they can dictate what gets censored and what doesn't. That's why you said there, will the story come out or not? It likely won't, because a lot of the big tech or people behind the big tech are more on the supportive side of the left or lobbying the left. I think, I don't know exactly, but there's something going on there, because, why else are they concealing this information? Going off completely on a tangent, I'm probably going to ruin this conversation. I was stoned last night and had a thought about this whole censorship thing. Shane, I want to get your opinion on it. Oh, sitting on the ball was too hard, was it? Now you've moved to a chair.
Going dead, yeah.
Your ass is going
Deep
dead.
squat position, boy.
I was thinking, why don't they? It'll never happen. And again, I was stoned at my shit bag. But basically, why couldn't you get intellectuals across the board? So both left leaning, right leaning, fucking leaning against the wall, whatever the fuck. like, you know, the Jordan Petersons, the Robert Greens, and even getting other people involved, like, I don't know, the Jocko Willicks of the world, and then again the other side. So all of these really intellectual people, uh, and they're all voted in by everyone. So we've got a side and someone who leans on everything. Shane's fucking smiling and laughing at me. Let me finish.
And not continue.
So you've got 12 of these. That's fucking rude. We get 12 of these intellects across the board, and different types of intellectual as well. Even innovators. Elon Musk, different
Why
innovators, people
12,
with
by the
special
way?
minds.
Just
I don't know, 12 apostles, whatever. So
okay.
you get these 12 people, and these are the guys that decide. They're the ones that review and decide, like in terms of censorship, in terms of all these things. They're able to put all their minds together and to dictate what's, you know, can be put out. It's still
Well,
the control.
they'd have to get
Do you know
elected
what you
anyway,
could
so
do?
there would be a
Yeah, but what you
popularity
could do
contest
is,
anyway.
but you could
Yeah,
have
but
elections.
then you have to make it fair,
You could
though.
have
You have to make it
elections, and you
fair.
could have something called the government, where you have people on both sides that have different perspectives, and you could argue points, and then pass legislation. That would be great, actually, wouldn't it? If that was
It would be
something
great,
that
but the problem
existed.
is with the yeah, yeah. All right. Well, I was stoned.
But that's what
But you
politics
get me?
is like, because but people don't like, politics has gone to the place now where a lot of these people wouldn't want to go into that as a career. Like, politics isn't something that Elon Musk would have gone into because he wanted to go into innovation. Politics isn't something that
But
Jocko
okay,
Willink
but
would
what
have
I'm
gone
trying to
into.
say is okay, a politician is born and bred into learning how to deal and speak to public, learning obviously policies and economic things, but essentially really it's learning how to deal and speak with people and negotiate and all this kind of stuff. And it's because the system's so fucked up, there's so much corruption with this lobbying and everything else. I'm talking about getting rid of the lobbying thing, still having a structure in place that they have for politicians, but having, like, who would you rather listen to? A guy who was born into a family of fucking powerful politicians who are, you know, that's what they do, or someone who spent their life understanding human nature, human behavior, innovation, all of these things, and having them putting all their amazing minds together and being able to I don't know, lads. I'm
No,
going off on
obviously
it
the
now.
latter is better now, but like, you have that means a complete systemic change, and that's what a lot of people feel they want. Like, when you think about the Hunter Biden story, what should be upsetting to people about that is like that the tech firms and media outlets decided that we're not intelligent enough to come to a conclusion on whether behavior of a potential president is bad enough that you don't want to vote for him. They said,
Mm.
"Oh, like, we'll take care of that for you. Like, you don't have to, like, the information at hand now. You know what Joe Biden did was incredibly dangerous to American sovereignty, and like, they're dealing with an Eastern Bloc country, could have caused so much. Probably is potentially one of the reasons why all this is kicking off as well. Who knows what's going on behind closed doors? If Joe Biden was that close, buddying up with entities, massive, powerful entities within Ukraine, but they were saying, and because, you know, the idea is that, well, Donald Trump is so bad that we'll have to fucking, you know, we'll have to basically dictate reality. It's like having a monopoly on reality, because what people see on the black box in the TV in the sitting room, or what people see on their phones in their hand, or what people see on their laptop, that's what creates their reality. That's where they get their information from. That's where they get their perception from. So it's upsetting to think that we live in a world where stuff that should be put into your mind and stuff that you should be able to make a decision about yourself is no longer happening. And these families that you're talking about who are born into politics, it's in their interest to keep it going. Like, it's in their interest to keep lobbying going. It's in their interest to keep insider trading going. And they dictate policy. They dictate the game. I think there was a lot of that sentiment coming up the pandemic, man. There was a lot of feeling for like maybe 10 years. There was like, post, you know, the crash in 2008. It was like people were feeling like fed up, almost like this isn't working anymore globally, especially in the
Yeah,
West. You know, like, this thing
yeah.
isn't working. These politicians are just lying through their fucking teeth, and we all know it. Like, but you just kind of say, oh, it's just lobbying. It's just lobbying. It's just taking money off someone to make policies that can impact other people's lives. Like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, look, complex situation. In my opinion, something has to give. We're at a weird time now where it feels like something has to give. It's going to go one of two ways: either absolutely dystopian fucking weirdness, or something gets an overhaul. But either one, I think we're in for a bit of fucking messiness. You have to, you know, you have to make your room. You have to. I always use that analogy, like cleaning your room. You have to make it an absolute mess first before you get it clean. And I think that's the
Well,
same
things
with what's
things
going on
need to
right now.
change. Things probably needed to change, and I think that people who are in power, politicians and very influential billionaires and trillionaires who have an interest in keeping things some way the same, or at least having an opinion and having some fucking part in how things will change. When when that sentiment is there within the population, if you don't start to bring people in a certain direction, which we are doing, like we're changing culturally, we're changing socioeconomically, like cash is leaving slowly but surely. I mean, it's crazy for us to think that a world will exist with no cash. But Isabel now loves paying for stuff
Not
on
for
her
me, son.
counter. So
Cryptocurrency. Whoop whoop.
yeah, but crypto is not cash either, and who
Crypto
knows what way?
markets are
Like,
doing.
look,
Shut the fuck up.
but look, the thing is, people who are born today more than likely will think it's so weird to hand over a piece of paper in order for exchange of goods or
Yeah, of
services, and
course.
that's weird for
Yeah.
us to comprehend. But all that change that is happening, the question is it all happening naturally and sporadically and like very little kind of control, or is there a lot more control than we actually think there is going on? Is there an agenda to move us in a place that is before people like us get to decide what's best for us? Because who are we to know? We're not intelligent enough. Are other people within society who have massive influence, massive power, lineage of information, of knowledge, and of influence, are they starting to think like, okay, let's start moving people towards the change that they need?
Yeah, you sound like a politician, Ed, doesn't he?
I think change should run.
But politicians lie. I'm
Oh,
not
here we
lying, but
go.
I'm just telling
That's true.
telling you what I think.
Listen, we've only got 10 minutes left, and I'm conscious of the time. There's one other tiny thing I'd like to bring up because I
2
just thought it
seconds
was
there
an
on
interesting perspective.
because I have to say this. You said that back to front. You said there's 10 minutes left, and then you stated that you're conscious of the time, but you should have said I'm conscious of the time. There's only 10 minutes left.
Okay,
Just
English
let you know.
teacher. Okay, thanks for that, though. I appreciate that, all right. So I watched an interview with Oliver Stone and Patrick Bet-David. Patrick Bet-David is like a media guy in America. He's got some brilliant interviews. Oliver Stone, phenomenal director, and he's had an amazing life. But he brought up one perspective that I didn't think about until this now. Shane, I'm probably sure you were aware of this, or you did have this in your mind, but he was saying that Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, who, initially when I was looking at things on Twitter, the fact that he's kind of bunkered down and he's not moving and he's standing up for everything, I was like, well, that's a fucking hero, very brave and everything of him. But Oliver Stone offered a different perspective, which I thought was very interesting, where he said it's actually really damaging. It's very damaging to the rest of the world too, because it's putting everyone else at expense here. So yeah, it might be brave, but it's not the most logical thing to do. There's not really standing up to try get as much negotiation as possible. It's potentially antagonizing, and at the end of the day, there has to be compromise with this. It's like COVID. You're never going to please everyone with COVID. We had to, all lock down and do everything else in order to appease people that have, medical issues and the elderly population, but it was at the expense of younger people. It just was. There's no two ways about it. It was at the expense of businesses and everything else. Now, again, I'm sitting in the middle on that, but however, there's never a one size fits all answer. So there has to be compromises with this. And the fact that he's standing up saying, we're going to fight, we're going to do this, it's potentially putting a lot of risk at everyone else. And I thought it was an interesting perspective because I always thought it was very brave and everything else. But now when you look at it, it's almost a little bit like I'm willing to sacrifice for the rest of the world kind of thing. What's your thoughts on it quickly? Because we've got very little time left.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, and I get what the point he's making. Like it's again, it's kind of digging your heels in, and it's saying like Vladimir Putin. The narrative is that he's digging his heels in for the sake of wanting the Soviet Union back or wanting, a more powerful influence on Eastern Bloc, and that's just saying then there's no other reason to talk to the man. Like there's no other reason to stay and talk to him because he's just crazy evil. That's the narrative. Like,
Yeah.
and Ken, who the fuck? Like, I don't know Vladimir Putin from Adam. Like, I've listened to a few things that he says, and he sounds very rational. He sounds very like he's talked about the NATO expansion and trying to bring that to the conversation for the last 10 years, and how it's upset him that he hasn't been allowed or hasn't been listened to, whatever. But is it the case that you just say, well, all that is just a crazy man speaking, and
Yeah.
we should fight him? That's it, fight. And as you said, that's putting okay. Should we should the West get a vote on that? In Ireland at the moment, they're talking. There's one politician who's pushing for Ireland to move away from neutrality or what's the fuck neutrality? Neutral.
No, you said it right. I think you said it right.
Neutrality. Is that it? That sounds very weird.
Neutrality. That does sound weird.
But being neutral,
neutrality.
basically, he's pushing for us to put more pressure on the Putin regime and to lose our neutral position when it comes to combat or to war.
And he should fuck off. I don't just stay neutral.
I know,
that's
like,
my happy place.
But it's like, but a lot of people, like,
doing?
he's almost saying that we should do it quick, like, and not like that's something that needs to be put to a referendum. Like, that needs to be everyone in the country needs to have a say on that. Like,
it is. Ed, let's get some Ask Reddits because we're closing up on an hour now.
Yeah, let's do it. Speaking of Ireland, what's the best Irish food, lads?
Oh man, soda bread,
Fuck. Spice
soda bread
beef.
and black pudding.
Black
You mean
pudding's
corned
great
beef?
as well. White pudding. No,
Corned
spice
beef,
beef. Spice beef's a Cork
like
thing more than
pastrami. Is it spice beef?
yeah, but it's a more of a Cork thing. It's like a certain spice. Beautiful. It's unreal. I'll give you some when you're next there.
Yeah, I do. I'd love to try your spice beef.
Bodice
But
is
yeah,
another
black
one.
pudding, soda
Bodice.
bread, white pudding.
I had soda bread when I was over there, Nabs, and
Mate.
I'm gonna get hate for this because everyone's Irish that listen to this didn't like it. Sorry, next one.
You didn't like soda bread? What was that my gaff? My mum gave it you.
No. Your mum's food was unbelievable. She made
You
me
better
a cake.
fucking. I was thinking here, if my
Fucking
man gave you
brown
soda
nose,
bread,
yeah.
you're talking shit about it. This would have been a Jorge
That'd be
Masvidal. I'd be
fucked
fucking
up.
coming over to Stoke Newington by finding you outside the shop.
But
Jesus.
did you have proper soda? Did you have proper soda bread? Irish soda bread?
Where
with
did you have
Irish
soda
butter?
bread? Yeah.
We were in a restaurant, and you let me try some of yours. You had some.
Yeah,
Oh, you did?
fucking Shane.
No, Nabs did. Maybe it wasn't the proper one,
Oh,
but
that was
Whoa,
in
whoa, whoa,
Carlo,
whoa,
was it?
Hold on. When the fuck did I give you soda bread?
I'd have a shit
Oh.
soda bread.
I don't know. Listen, we're going to chat about this after the podcast, all right?
To be honest, if
Okay.
Nabs was giving you soda bread, it probably wasn't the best because he would have eaten it all himself if it wasn't.
I was going to say he looked offended at the fact that he was ever going to give me, and he was like, "I wouldn't give you fucking any of my soda bread."
Mate, all right. Anyway.
Or we give a
Next
good few
question.
answers there if
Get-
people want to try some
Getting
Irish
angry
food.
now. Yeah.
Well, what's it? Sorry, Nabs. What's a useless fact that you know?
Sorry, Nabs.
You know what? That's a good question
The-
because I do these
Why'd
pub
you say
quizzes
sorry?
every year.
Because Nabs is angry now. Look at him.
No, I'm not angry, Ed. You know I
I
love
don't
you.
like
to
making
bits.
him angry.
No, Ed, I love you. I love you. I'm only joking with you. You know it's for the show. I can't wait to see you guys next week, lads. I'm going to see the two of you. We're going to do it
It's
in
going to be
person.
great.
You still haven't sent me those dates, by the way.
Sorry, yeah, I don't even know them. Haven't even booked my flight yet. So, all right. So, what was the question?
What's the most useless fact that you know?
Oh yeah, I know a lot of these because I do these pub quizzes every year, and sometimes I'm the pub quiz master, so I have to come up with all the questions. So I try to come up with these wacky ones. So a useless fact that I know is it's illegal to eat fried chicken with a fork in Georgia, the state of Georgia.
You're fucking actually illegal. Like, you get arrested for it.
Yeah. Ed can do the googling if he wants, but it's illegal to eat fried chicken with a fork in Georgia.
What's the reasoning for it, you know?
I don't know. It's quick fire. So if you don't have an answer for a useless fact, then let's move on.
Jesus, that's just after stumping me because that useless fact is very interesting.
Eating fried chicken
Kinda
with a knife, fork, spoon, or any other utensil is strictly forbidden in Georgia.
Forbidden or illegal? Now check it because I had
It says
illegal.
forbidden and illegal.
See, there you go, Shane.
Fuck
There
me.
you go. I
When I'm
know.
in Georgia, I'll have to be careful. I'll have to take the food.
No, I have to be
spoon and
careful.
knife food in my bag. What's the next one? Ed? Do you have one more for us?
Pillow fighting has been turned into a sport. What's something similar you would like to see turned into a sport?
If I'm going to be honest, boys,
What's that game?
go ahead, Shane.
Thumb
Thumb
wars.
That's a great answer.
That'd be a good one. If I'm going to be honest, lads, I'm going to leave this podcast on a very, very low note. Very
why?
low note. Because all I can think about is like, okay, it's going to sound very homoerotic too, but it is what it is. You get three fellas in a room. You get a referee. And you say, right, boys, on your marks, when I say count down to 3, you have to take out your cock, start fucking blasting out a wank. Whoever comes first is the champ.
It's called
3,
soggy
2,
biscuit.
1, let's go. Soggy biscuit.
Never heard of
that's
soggy
not-
biscuit.
No.
I think that's something different. Shane.
Not soggy biscuit is where there's a group of lads wanking on a biscuit, and whoever comes last has to eat the biscuit.
Oh my Okay, well listen, the Soggy Biscuit could be the Soggy Biscuit Championships 2022.
I can't believe you brought that to the conversation, by Jesus.
Well, hold on. I brought that fellas having a wank. You brought up fellas wanking on a biscuit, digestive, and then all
that's
fucking
just-
eating it.
But that's what soggy biscuit is like. That's the name of actual thing. I've never done it, but like you were the one who took what sport.
Okay, well
what
let me
activity
ask
brought
you this
into a
question.
sport.
Let me ask you this
It
question.
would
Let me
have
ask
to
you
be a
this question.
hobnob as well.
Oh,
Jesus.
love hobnobs, man. Love hobnobs.
I'd say you
Let me
love
ask
them
you
more
this
with a lot of
question
cum
now,
in them.
Shane. It would, yeah. Especially your cum. Listen, what would you now if that was a game and there was 6 fellas in a room and they all had to pull out their cock and jerk off and the last one to jerk off and the biscuit had to eat it, would you watch it without having to see, without looking at them actually jerking off? Would you watch it?
No.
What do you mean?
No,
What do you mean? Would you watch?
probably not.
Would I watch
Would you
what?
watch
Like
the
you said,
Soggy
without
Biscuit
actually having to
Championships?
look. You said without
No,
having
as
to
in
look
like
at it.
you're not looking directly 4K fucking cam at their cock.
But what else are you
jerking.
going to be looking at if you're not watching them doing it? Like,
The camera could be a little bit away from them, so they're all standing in a
or
circle.
like their
so you
facial
can't
expressions.
really-
That'd be funny if you had like 6 facial expression
something
cameras.
like that, and it's just like right, fucking Ed just fucking blew his load. He's out. Did you watch
Still
it?
would be a very, very weird game to watch. I'm not going to lie. I think that, I don't know. I don't know what to say to you there.
I think Nabs, you should do
on that
commentary
note-
on it.
Yeah, I do commentary on it. I do commentary.
Boys,
Listen, Reggie's
that's it.
fucking getting there. Reggie's getting there. He looks like he's gonna come. Anyway,
Jesus,
listen,
he's going to tear the spine out of himself if he doesn't slow down.
lads, lovely to chat to
Love
you
you
now.
guys.
Just quickly before we end this one, again, anyone that's listening, we had some lovely messages from people. Comment on the stuff. Comment on the YouTube video, and we're going to call out the comments. Or if you have any interest in kind of arguments or debates or anything like that, comment on it, and we'll bring it up on the show. And like the Instagram page and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And again, pretty soon we're going to be coming out with an MMA show. Lads, I love you very much.
Boys.
That was fucking interesting.
Love you, boys.
Can you get Donald Trump Jr. to comment on our YouTube video, Nabs?
Probably not. It depends. If we say something favourable, maybe. Shane, when we finish this podcast, because you have a terrible fucking tendency to do this, don't just leave because it cuts off your recording, all right? So keep it going.
Yeah, I know. I've
All
learned
right,
that
and
now
that's a bit
5
inside
times.
baseball, but it is what it is. All right, lads, I love
All
you
right,
very
love you,
much.
boys.
Ed, great
Thanks,
show,
fellas.
great questions. See you.